Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so excited to see so many people that have registered and have joined us this morning. Welcome to our very first Build Your Business Wednesday. Really excited about what's in store for each of you and for all of us this morning, because I'm looking forward to learning too. So we've got some amazing panelists on this morning who are going to share with you some of the lessons that they learned as they started businesses, as we've started our businesses. And we're hoping that the lessons that we've learned will help you to not make the same mistakes or to learn from the successes that we've had, so that you can, you know, kind of jumpstart your learning, right? Minimize that learning curve and jump right into maximizing your business. So I'm going to turn things over to our amazing host, Tiffany, and she is going to lead our discussion. She's going to be facilitating. She's going to introduce all of our panelists, and then she's going to give us the play rules. You know, she's going to tell us what we can and can't do, and then we're going to jump right in. But I want to say good morning to everybody, and I hope that you really take a lot away from what we have going on today. So, Tiffany, off to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany Richardson. I will be giving a short introduction of all of our panelists. Just a quick note, please make sure that you have your microphone on mute. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and jot it down in the chat box, and I will get to it as soon as possible. So let's get started. We have Miss Khadidra Jones. She is the founder of Distinctive Designs, LLC, Khadidra Jones and Company, as well as Tailor Made Coaching. Some services and products that she offers from her Khadidra and Jones Company is she places work from home individuals with Fortune 500 companies, and they provide customer service and tech support. Distinctive Designs is an apparel company that spreads mental health awareness through apparel for both men and women. And Tailor Made Coaching provides business startup and coaching services for aspiring and current business owners. A key fact about Ms. Jones is she prides herself in maintaining 3 successful businesses, and she's still able to maintain that work-life balance. So thank you for being with us, Mrs. Jones. Next we have Mrs. Candace Powers, Lord. Her business is Starshine Arts. She is the creator of that business. Some services and products that she offers is design/art consultations, as well as she produces multimedia art. And a key fact about her and her business is she teaches, consults on, and produces various art forms, including resin artwork, painting, and jewelry making, to name a few. Next, we have Mr. Hamilton Perkins. He is the founder of Hamilton Perkins Collection. His products are recycled bags as well as accessories. And a key fact about his business is that all of his products are made from recycled materials. Next, we have Dr. Rhonda Alexander. She is the founder, principal coach, and senior consultant of, correct me if I missay this, E2 Executive and Entrepreneur Coaching and IUVO Consulting LLC. And some of her products and services are, she coaches entrepreneurs and leaders who desire to step out of their comfort zones, reach new goals, and take their effectiveness to the next level. And her firm is dedicated to assisting global organizations with U.S. Food and Drug Administration regulation compliance. A key fact about Dr. Rhonda is she remains involved in her community as a volunteer, board member, and executive council member with local nonprofit organizations. We also have Akosua, who is the creator of the program A Startup's Right Steps. She provides business consultations, and she's helped her clients save up to 5 figures in less than 30 days of training with her. And last but not least, we have myself, Tiffany Richardson. I am the owner and operator of Headz Boutique, as well as a new business, Cyber Nerd Gaming Cafe, LLC. My businesses provide skincare and spa products, as well as providing small business consulting. And my new business is a gaming cafe where we will sell access to state-of-the-art gaming computers, as well as popular gaming consoles such as PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and VR consoles. A key fact about myself is 3 days a week, help middle and high school students prepare for college readiness and success in a global society. So let's start with our first question. And we can start with Mr. Perkins because you're the first. How did you get started with your business?
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany, for the overview and the introduction. Our business started basically out of a personal need. I needed a bag. We started on Kickstarter. We had a $10,000 goal. We hit the goal in about 6 days. We shipped about $25,000 of pre-orders. It took us some time to learn manufacturing, supply chain, logistics. We launched a pop-up concept where we would hop around different stores like Bloomingdale's and country clubs and retail outlet stores. And basically from there, took us on a journey. We traveled to learn, all the different suppliers that could offer us, recycled materials or eco-friendly materials, or just finding ways to make new partnerships. And, long story short, we went to Haiti. We were doing production there, and we got a chance to see the country. We got a chance to see the artisan sector there, the fashion sector. And then we came back to the States and started really working on getting retail distribution. So we started selling our products into retail stores. We got our products landed in about 150 retailers in about 15 months. We caught the retail bug ourselves. We opened our own retail store where we operated in Norfolk, Virginia for about a year as a kind of a pop-up space where we activated lots of panel discussions and meetups and, all kinds of events to bring people together. Then the coronavirus hit. We decided it wasn't the safest environment. So we ended up closing our store and kind of focusing in on corporate sales and e-commerce. So that's kind of bringing us up to where we are and how we got started. It started with, basically an idea and solving a problem. And then, fast forward, we're still doing that, just doing it on a bigger scale.
Okay, awesome. Mrs. Jones, the same question. How did you get started with your businesses?
I was wondering, I was like, wait a minute, which one? Well, I'll start with the Khadijah Jones and Company. That actually got started because at the time I was a stay-at-home mom / military spouse. And with us and, with that schedule alone, my husband wanted me to stay home at first, but I kind of wanted something where I was going to be able to be a stay-at-home mom and still be able to contribute a little bit. So a friend referred me to the call center environment. And with that, I kind of learned the ropes from that. And then I saw a need from other military spouses and other stay-at-home moms and just, everyday people in general. So I started my own company where I, now hire and, bring in those agents. The distinct designs, it came from a purpose. God kind of planted that on me from a hard time that I went through when I had my second child. I went into depression and a little bit of depression, anxiety a little bit. And so that birthed that business to be able to offer that same mental health awareness to people who may have gone through what I went through or even know someone. So that's where that one came from. And then tailor-made coaching, that came from my expertise into the business world. I've been doing a lot of networking and with business owners and, providing service to business owners for years. So I kind of transitioned that into a business to be able to service them and to be able to service aspiring business owners as well. So that's kind of how all of those came about.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. Candace, so how did you get started with your business?
Hi, great to be here. It's very similar to the story that Khadijah just told. Khadijah? Yeah. Or how she got started as well. I was a stay-at-home mom, and after having issues with, my son's birth and a lot was going on, and I did want to contribute as well. So what I started doing was taking something I usually do every day, which is doing art, which is a great way to just be therapeutic and practice self-care. I wanted to teach that to other people. So I started doing markets. And from like just parks and in shops and everything, and it was great. And that's actually where Tiffany and I met, is doing a market in Norfolk at Riverview. But I was just really inspired by community and the togetherness, and that led to me getting into doing Veg Fest, which led me to being vegan. So the journey I went on not only helped develop my art, but it helped me it sparked a desire in me for community. So now what I do is, with everything I make, I do try to just reach people as much as possible and to teach the importance of self-care and wellness. And I do a lot of work when it comes to, I went blank. When it comes to, I went blank because we don't do markets anymore. So, but the vegan market, I continue doing Veg Fest, and yeah, it just developed over time. I just kind of went with it. So I kind of just, as an artist, go where the journey takes me. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's how it goes.
Okay. Dr. Alexander, how about you? How did you get started with your businesses?
So I probably am one of those people, maybe some of you can identify with. I had a really nice job, but it was very frustrating for me. I was consulting with companies, medical device, drug companies, food companies, with a local firm. It's an international firm, but they're based locally. And it was driving me crazy because I couldn't do things the way I wanted to do them. I had ideas. I had, my department was the high performing department because I was always changing things and doing things and listening to people and pushing and driving. But my bosses hated that. I was always costing them money. I always had ideas. I wouldn't shut up in meetings. And we just kind of developed this really toxic relationship where they wanted me to kind of sit down and shut up and do my job. And all I could think about was, how can I do this better? How can we do this bigger? How can we reach more people? How can our division grow? And so I had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. I always have. This isn't my first business. I've launched and failed lots of them before now. But this, that spirit in me just never died. I had to, when the recession hit in 2007, 2008, I had to get a job. And this was that job. My firm, I had a graphic design firm, and that firm had to close because of the recession. And so I had to get a job. And that spirit just didn't die in me. And so I had an opportunity to consult overseas. My firm helps companies comply with Food and Drug Administration requirements. So I know all the ins and outs of what it takes to get a medical device on the market, a drug on the market, food products, all of those things that FDA regulates. And so I had an opportunity to consult internationally with a firm in Germany. And so I decided, this is kind of nice. I quit my job, continued consulting with that firm. And from there, my business grew into, I'm in over 13 countries now, working with companies that want to market their drug products. And this whole COVID thing has really, really, really revolutionized that market. I'm grateful for that. But my start really was, in this particular instance, my start was just out of frustration, really. I needed to be able to stretch my wings out and fly and do things in a way that really made sense to me and really spoke to what I believe was part of my calling. In terms of my entrepreneurship coaching, now that is my calling. I kind of help people birth vision. Most of the time when companies or founders have a hard time getting their business started, it's not always just business boundaries. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's just things, fear and those kinds of things. So I work with entrepreneurs to help them overcome a number of different barriers to be able to get their business started and to be able to grow their businesses. So that's the quick and dirty of it.
Awesome. All right. Akosua, so how did you come about creating the program where you work with clients and help them with their business?
Okay, thanks for the question, Tiffany. Hello, everyone. It came out of a need, really. I've previously to that, I had a business partner and we worked on web applications and mobile apps. But I wasn't looking forward to starting another business or another course. But it really came out of a need from working from the NSU Innovation Center, because we focus on Hampton Roads and we focus on servicing individuals, and most of our percentage and our numbers come from Hampton Roads. But I had people reaching out to me, mainly like from Africa, about like innovation and incubation and all of that. So that is how I got started, mainly from need and people asking me.
Okay, awesome. This is my turn real quick. So I have Headz Boutique, which is a skincare business. The reason why I started that was I'm a hands-on learner. And when I was going to Norfolk State for my bachelor's in entrepreneurship, I needed to be able to somehow apply what I was learning. I really felt that sitting in the classroom and just discussing theory, I wasn't really understanding what I was learning. And so I wanted to, I've always wanted to have a business, always, especially when I was in the military. My dream was, I was like, I'm going to get out of the military and I'm not going to listen to anybody but myself. I'm going to be my own boss. So I've always wanted my own business, and I wanted something that was low cost to start. And so my mother-in-law, shortly after I had met her, she told me that, she had been making skincare products before my husband was born. And so on a vacation, down to Florida at her house, she pretty much explained everything to me. And I determined, that's an easy business to go into. And it would be good for me to apply what I was learning in school. And 3 years later, I'm still using this business pretty much as a learning tool. It's just a bonus that I get to make money from that business. My new business, which I'm super excited about, is a gaming cafe. And the reason why I started that was myself, as well as my family, my kids, my husband, all of our military friends were all gamers. And when I would travel around the country, around the world, I would see facilities in other places that I didn't see here in Hampton Roads. And I've also, I've always been a big supporter of women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses, since I'm 03. And that's one thing that I also didn't really see a whole lot of in the gaming industry in our area. And so I really just wanted to create an environment that adults as well as kids could go to and just sit down and have fun and do something that was essentially, the energy is similar to when you go to a football game. That's just how it is with gamers. And so I wanted to create an environment where people could do that and pretty much have, like Candace was explaining earlier, community. So that's how I got into that business. So like I said earlier, if anyone in the audience has a question, please put your question down in the chat and I will go ahead and ask the panel your question. We really want this to be a dialogue between the audience and the panelists. So let's see, I already got questions. Wow, okay. Alrighty. So this is for everyone, and we can start with Mr. Perkins. How did you get started to set up the business license or company assistance? And that is from Miss Jessica Johnson.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Business licenses, I think that's a city thing. So I think you got to go to the city to get a license that you're in. So do that. Company assistance, you know, that was a little bit more nuanced, I'd say, for me personally. At the time of starting my business, I was working, you know, I worked in a bank. So I basically spent nights and weekends kind of learning, you know, sales, marketing, finance, you know, looking into books, you know, reading some books, then, you know, getting the information and then like trying my best to apply it. So I would get assistance that way. I did try to reach out to other business owners that had already kind of gone maybe in the past. So like actually talking to them, getting some advice. You know, I think I found a lot of the time that what worked for someone else, you know, may not work for you, especially if it's done in a different time and it's a different industry. So, you know, I'd say that led me to being really customer centric and very customer like obsessed, and started really interviewing a lot of potential customers. And I had worked in retail before I worked in banking. So had a lot of kind of like customer list to call on. And, you know, I just interviewed a lot of like customers and just asked them, what do you want in a bag? Like, what's interesting to you? What would make your travel experience better? What would make our product awesome compared to any competition? And I did that for about, you know, I did about 1,000 people is really like the amount of people I spoke to, or the number of people I spoke to. And once I had that data, I was able to kind of create a design off of that. And that was our first bag that we launched on Kickstarter, the Earth Bag Premium. It's 2 bags in one backpack duffel bag.
Okay, awesome. So everyone doesn't have to answer the question. If you feel like you can answer the question, then go ahead. Sorry, Ms. Perkins.
No, that's fine. Fact check me on the business license thing too. I think that's a city.
I'll piggyback on the business license. Yes, that is by city/county. So whatever city, I know for me in Chesapeake, you do have to reach out to your city commissioner of revenue office. A lot of them you can sometimes Google the business license for, you know, whatever county you're in. If you're in Newport News or Hampton or whatever, you just Google for that county. Sometimes they'll be online on the website where you can download the document and you just email into the office. If they don't have that, then you just give that office a call, because then they'll email it to you. I know Chesapeake, if you're in Chesapeake, they don't have it online anywhere. You have to actually call the office for them to directly email it to you. And you do have to stay on them because sometimes, especially with the pandemic going on, emails do not get sent. So you have to stay on them and just, you know, reach out to them though.
I'll piggyback off of you. I know when I got my business license, I just went down to the courthouse in Virginia Beach. And the people there were super helpful because I had no clue what I was doing. I just kept asking people, where do I go? I just need a business license. And so, you know, they were very helpful. Now, because of the pandemic, you know, I did mine 3 years ago. Because of the pandemic, I'm sure that, you know, now the protocol is a little different. So if you do have a question about, you know, where you should go to get your business license, I would definitely start with the courthouse in your city or county. All right, Janice Green has a question. What if you do business in all the cities? Do you have to get a business license in every city? So does anybody want to take that?
I think that's the city that you live in. Of course, like, let's say if you live in Chesapeake or Virginia Beach, give them a call, let them know that you operate in different cities, but they probably 9 times out of 10 is going to go based on where the actual principal office is. So if you live in, let's say for instance, you live in Virginia Beach, but your principal office that you did on your articles of organization or whatever is in Chesapeake, they may go based off of that. So you kind of can, kind of let them know and then go from there. I know from Tiffany, she lives in Virginia Beach, but of course she operates in different cities. But from my understanding, your business license is in Virginia Beach, right? Yeah. So you just
Yes.
kind of let them know that, because they'll ask what kind of business you have. Then, kind of go from there.
Anybody else want to answer on those questions? No? Okay. Our next question is from Miss Jasmine Young. Her question is, what if you want to get a start with your business, but you don't plan on operating out of the city or state where you get your business license?
Then you should get the business license where you are located. So the business license doesn't really indicate where you're doing business in terms of where your customer is, or where you're marketing to. The point of a business license is so that your locality can tax you, essentially, and that they know how many businesses are in the area. So wherever your principal place of business is, whether it's out of your home, whether it's out of a brick and mortar store or an office or whatever, you're going to get your business license wherever your home base is, or wherever your registered address is. Like Ms. Jones said, it's going to be where your articles of incorporation say you're doing business. And so that's in I would say most, if not all cases, that's what you're going to be looking for in terms of your business license.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When Chesapeake broke it down to me, they basically said in a nutshell, is basically giving you authorization to operate in their city. Whether that's home base or whether that's brick and mortar, they have to give you, the go ahead to operate in there. So that's kind of how that works, like Ms. Rhonda said.
I would piggyback on those. I think that all sounds great. I would also kind of see if you can source some professional service partners in the beginning. So lawyer, banker, accountant, try to get some referrals, but shout out to the NSU Innovation Center. You can kind of leverage organizations for warm leads or warm referrals to kind of also help you navigate structurally, like what might work best for your business, depending on what your goals are and how you kind of plan to organize yourself and structure and that kind of thing. I think, that might also help from just a sanity check standpoint, just to make sure you're really dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And, that's kind of what, my experience was, referrals, you can call up, different firms or different accountants and just kind of ask them, like, what area do they sort of cover? Like, if your business is in like, you're kind of in the local business space and you focus mainly on like markets and a certain geography, then, you probably can find service providers that help primarily in that space. And then maybe if you're more global and you're, doing business in different, countries, and you might want to find someone that's got international chops. So that would be my 2 cents.
Okay, awesome. All right, we have a list of questions now. All right, so from Darren. So he has 2 questions. From a veteran's point, we always hear about getting assistance with starting up a business. Is there actually any assistance that disabled veterans can receive with starting up their business? And then also, how do you set up your taxes? Do you set up on the IRS site?
Okay, so I'll take that one. I'll kick that one off.
Okay.
One of the things, there are lots of resources for veterans. There are some, of course, there are grants and things that you can research. There's a website called Foundation Center Online. It is a subscription-based website, but you can do grant searches on that website. But then also what you want to make sure that you do is to officially form your business and become, at least in Virginia, we have what's called a SWAM business, which is small, woman and minority owned and disabled veteran owned. So now they're calling it SWAM-V business. And what that does is that recognizes your business as being, of course, in this small category, and it opens up opportunities, particularly for procurement. From a procurement perspective, if you want to do business with the state, they have a hierarchy of how they address businesses in the state. So when somebody, like when we want to go buy supplies at the university, there's a hierarchy of companies that we can use, and all of those of us who deal with Norfolk State are kind of chuckling because we know it's like you can't just go to Walmart and get the paper towels. You've got to go and make sure that there's a SWAM-V vendor. If there's not a mandated vendor, you have to be SWAM-V, which means you have to be small, woman, or minority owned, or disabled veteran owned. And so when you get those, you can Google SWAM business in Virginia, and it'll come right up. It's a state recognized designation, and you can be certified. You have to send in some information, and then you become a SWAM certified business. Then it makes it easier for you to do business in the state. And there are other kinds of designations that will help you get small business resources. Also look for resources locally, like in Virginia Beach. I'm on the Minority Business Council. So there are initiatives being actively engaged with the entrepreneurial community to make sure that minority businesses and veteran-owned businesses are getting a percentage of the contracts that are being awarded in Virginia Beach. And I suspect that there are others throughout Hampton Roads. And so you want to just be mindful of those kinds of opportunities. They're usually open to the public when they have those kinds of resources and groups, councils, and things of that nature. So you can really actively participate, not just get resources, but let your voice be heard so that more resources can come to veterans. As far as your LLC, was that the question? Or about how you get set up with your taxes?
Taxes. Mm-hmm.
You get set up by getting an EIN, which is an employee identification number, or a tax ID, TIN. And so you go to the IRS website, you can get a TIN in like 5 minutes or less. It's just a matter of once you've incorporated, you go to the IRS's website. If you Google, because I don't have the direct link, so I apologize for constantly sending you to Google, but Google knows all. Go to Google and just type in get new TIN or get new EIN. It'll send you to the website. You fill it out and hit submit, and it's going to give you that number. That's how you get started. Now you get set up with your taxes by going to a tax attorney, an accountant, a CPA, all of those things. And if someone else wants to chime in here, you can, because I am none of those things. So,
yeah, I was a little excited about this because I'm a veteran. I'm a disabled veteran. And I am a minority, and obviously I'm a woman. So I'm all of those, and I'm actually in the process of getting my SWAM certification. And I will tell you, as a disabled veteran, one thing that you will need, so just kind of have it on hand, is your proof. They're going to want proof of your service-connected disability percentage. And so I had to download that. And you can just go on eBenefits and download that, have that generated and download that. And they're just going to want you to email that to them. It takes, so far it's taken about 30 days, about 45 days that I've been in the process. But it's super easy. You just fill out the paperwork and like I said, send them if you're service-connected disability. Service-connected disabled veteran, you just send in that paperwork verifying that what your percentage is. For financial assistance in reference to my business, I kind of skipped loans and grants and stuff, and I kind of had a plan whenever I got out of the Navy. And so my plan was to use my personal funds and my benefits, my BAH from from going to school. And so what I did was essentially I used my BAH that I was getting for going to school, and I funded my business that way. And you can get information on like the specific amounts that you'll receive. If that's the route you want to take, you can just go online like military.com and get that amount. For my taxes, I use TurboTax. I've been using TurboTax since I was old enough to know that I was supposed to do my own taxes. So I've always done that. And if I had a question, I would pretty much approach, someone at H&R Block, or, I would, when I do TurboTax, I always get the extras so that I can ask a tax expert if I have a question. So I never just kind of guess on my taxes. I always just pay the extra money so that if I do have a question in the process, I have somebody right there where I ask my question. And then also you said, who am I emailing the proof of disability to? They will, once you start your SWAM certification application, they will send you, you'll obviously give them your contact information. They'll send you the contact information of who you need to email that proof to. All right, so next question from Mr. Chad Smith. I have a business license, however, it's associated with my name. How do I register to get an LLC? So it sounds like you have a sole proprietorship.
Right.
And want to convert to an LLC. So does anybody want to take that?
I can kind of start that. So as a sole proprietor, if you want to switch to an LLC, you can of course register that, whatever business name you want to use, register that with your state. And then what you do, where your business license, if that's going to be the same county that you're going to operate that business license, then of course contact them back and say, hey, I switched it to, now have my articles of organization, and I want to switch it over from being a sole proprietor to now operating under my business. And then that way they can, make those adjustments. And if, they can kind of just switch it over, then they'll, let you know. And if not, and they require you to have a new one, then they'll of course let you know that as well. But whoever you have your, the business license that you have now, just contact them after you've already registered with your state, and then kind of go from there. And to register with your state, you can visit your state site. So if you're in Virginia, of course, if you'd like to register with Virginia, go on to the virginiaweb.gov, I think it is. Register with your state to get your LLC. And that's if you, kind of want to do it your, that way. As Hamilton said earlier, allow yourself to outsource things. If there's something that you absolutely don't know how to do, whether that's, anything whatsoever, there's so many services out here where you can outsource it so that way it's getting done properly. Because the worst thing that you want to do is try to do something that you don't know how to do. Because then, you don't want to mess yourself up, especially when it gets to, starting businesses and operating things like that, because there's a lot of things on the back end, like, taxes and, things like that you want to make sure that you have aligned properly. Because switching from sole proprietor to now, an LLC, you want to make sure that you, dot all your I's and cross all your T's.
All right, does anybody else want to chime in, or we have another question? Cool, all right. All right, so the next question is from Miss Kelly Marshall Hodges. Her question is, when networking for referrals, what materials should one have on hand? Also, how should you contact the person? For example, phone, email, or face-to-face?
If we're talking referrals for service providers still, or if we're talking customers, I think customers are still a central place to maybe think through. I know from my experience, that's kind of where I would source my referrals to keep me in that selling network. So a lot of my early service providers indirectly came through being in an environment where I was working and dealing with customers, and just, if you want something, you talk about it, you bring it up. If you're looking for something, it comes up in conversation. And so that was one way. It's also a nice sales tactic in general to ask your lead or ask your prospect, hey, you know, do you mind making a referral for me, or can you help me get an introduction to, you know, someone else? I understand you're not buying today, but can you actually introduce me to this other customer or this other service provider? So, I mean, it keeps the conversation going with your customer, keeps the conversation going with your prospects. And yeah, I'd say, you know, this type of format now for networking and referrals, I think, can be powerful now that we're in this COVID era. I think you can do a lot more than, you know, the one-to-one of like being in a space and then just trying to, you know, network with the 10 people that are in that space. I think you have unlimited upside to digitally network. So you can jump in forums. You know, if you're making something, you know, you can jump in a Reddit forum, you can jump in a Facebook group that's like a bunch of like people that are just super excited about that. You can also, you know, you can level up beyond all of that and just kind of do what's happening today, which is like hosting the actual party itself. And then that creates an ecosystem where now all of a sudden you got participants that are on your list. You can network with them, you can sell to them, you can upsell to them. So, you know, depending on your goal and where you want to go, you can either, you know, kind of play in another party and kind of, you know, be valuable in that party, or you can host your own party. And there's a helicopter flying over, sorry.
It's okay. All right, did anybody else want to chime in on that question? Are we good? All right, so the next question, and I am sorry if I mispronounced your name.
I'm sorry, I don't want to, I hate to interrupt
okay.
you, but I think Candace had a question.
Oh,
Did you?
go ahead.
Her hand was raised.
Oh, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said, actually.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's completely right, especially right now with the environment that we're in, where everyone is pretty much either, we're sticking to digital for the most part. When I would do markets, and to get feedback, it is extremely important to be social, to network, and to talk to people. What I actually did was, like, you would make business cards at home. They were the size of business cards, but they had contact information. I would pass those out at my markets, and also when I met people, to get feedback from them, and also to get some information, because there's also resources that I know Tiffany uses these, but you can actually use it to set up a system to where you can send emails, you can ask people questions, you can communicate with them that way. And also the hosting the parties, that's a great concept. That makes me really excited. I think I'm going to try that. But, you know, when you think about it, there's so many opportunities right now to grow when it comes to using social media. And that's something that is extremely important right now, to be able to utilize that source to do outreach. So you can't go door to door, but I think that Mr. Hawkins definitely hit on that. That's a great point. So yeah.
And I'll add just a snippet to piggyback on what Candace said. A lot of times when we do provide a service, like she said, utilize Facebook. I think a lot of businesses failed when the pandemic hit and they wasn't able to convert from the face-to-face to now more the digital side of it. There's a lot of resources, you know, Facebook groups. There's 1,000 Facebook groups out here now. But any, you know, for business owners, whether you're women-owned, veteran-owned, you know, whatever, there's so many Facebook groups, you know, pop in there, you know, meet people, talk to people, you know, and then allow them to be able to say, you know, hey, refer you out to other people, you know, and don't be scared to ask for that referral. You know, I think a lot of us, a lot of times business owners just are sometimes get scared to ask for a referral, but don't. You know, if you become acquainted with that person, say, hey, you know, I provide this service, you may or may not even be interested, but, you know, just in case you know someone, I at least want to, you know, extend it out and let you know what I do. So that way, you know, you can refer somebody who, you know, may need my service. So that's one of the things, like Candace said, piggyback on that, Facebook groups.
Yeah, I just want to jump into, I got two quick comments. The one, first of all, I was about making your own platform. I was talking to my daughter yesterday about some of the things that she's experiencing. She's fallen in love with this topic, with African American studies and learning history. She's a history buff, and she's trying to figure out, you know, how do I turn this into, something for me, for my life. I'm passionate about it. I love it. I can talk about it all day. And they said, well, this generation, this time is the best time for really anybody, because you don't have to be invited to the table anymore. You can create your own platform. And so you really need to look at, how can I take advantage of that? The suggestions that have been made are absolutely ways that you can do that. Facebook groups, going live, Facebook rooms, your Zoom rooms, deciding, hey, I'm gonna start something, and I'm gonna personally invite 10 people who know or who are involved. A lot of us sometimes are intimidated by putting out an invitation and seeing will people respond. Well, the very first time I did a group. I'm an introvert. I hate rejection. So I was scared nobody was going to register for my event. So the very first thing I did, I called some people I knew had my back, right? And then I called some other people who I knew were interested and who probably would come because they were interested in the topic. And that's how I started. I created my own platform. I wanted, at that time I hadn't done any speaking. I was really just trying to get my business off the ground as far as coaching and all of that. And I said, well, what can I do to start creating a forum and to create an audience? And it doesn't just happen organically, just because you start to post. If you notice anything about Facebook, when you start to post randomly, Facebook will let you post all the nonsense you want to post. But the first time you post about your business, all of a sudden you're shadow blocked and nobody can see your stuff. So I didn't rely on that. You can't rely on people organically seeing your stuff. You have to go out and find those people, and you have to invite them into your world. And sometimes that means actually asking them to help you get that ball rolling. So you have that forum that you could create. You don't have to wait for somebody else to create it for you. Secondly, when it comes to vendors and when it comes to meeting people and networking, when you have events, whether they're virtual or whenever we get back to in person and you get a card, don't just stockpile the card. Don't just say, well, now I have this person. Cultivate that relationship. Reach out to them by email and say, hey, we met at such and such event. I was so impressed by X. I'd love to set up a time to talk to you, or I'm looking forward to working with you. Don't immediately start selling to them and asking what they can do for you. Start to cultivate those relationships, because that is what business is about. That's what gets you those big accounts. That's what grows your business. So always relationships are going to be really important. So as you collect that information, use it. Don't just kind of sit on it until you realize, oh, I've got somebody who knows how. Let me find that card. And then it's 6 months since you've ever spoken to them and they don't remember you. Get in that person's mind by contacting them proactively.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rhonda. All right, so the next question, and sorry if I mispronounced your name, Ms. Tumker. Her question is, how do you keep your respective businesses relevant to the world for a longer period of time?
Ooh, I'll take that one. Let's see. One thing I abide by is if you can keep something relevant to yourself, right? And you yourself are not confused, you yourself are not all over the place, then you can keep it relevant to other people. And the way I go by it is understanding what are my principles. So if it comes to marketing, what are my principles? Meaning, what are the things that I cannot violate when it comes to marketing? And you have to understand those things, right? And then understanding the difference between your principles, your methods, right, are two different things. So I've seen a question about Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Those are all different methods of marketing to people, for example, right? But if I know what my principles are, what my customers need, what those important questions that I just cannot do without, when the new thing comes, it's not going to sway you away. And I think that is the common mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs can easily make, is the noise out there, all the different applications and all the different tools that are coming out. It can so distract you from keeping your business relevant to yourself and relevant to other people. So I like to tell people that in systems, the core of everything is understanding your principles, understanding your values, understanding what you yourself cannot let go and what your customers cannot let go, and then moving from there, and having fun with all the different tools. But just don't be shaken with all the different tools and methods and, you know, things out there that comes and goes.
Okay, thank you, Akosua. So we literally just realized it's 10 till 11. And we are going to wrap it up with just one kind of focused question for everyone on the panel. What is the biggest business tip or lesson that you've learned? And yes, Miss Young, we will definitely have a part 2 to this event. So if you have any other questions, we're all going to put our contact information in the chat box, but definitely send your questions to me so that I can populate them, and we will definitely have a part 2 to this event, because I think a lot of these questions that you guys are asking are extremely important. So let's start with Candace, since you're raising your hand. So what's the biggest lesson or business tip that you've learned? And try to keep it like under a minute.
Okay, I'll do the best I can. Let me first say, I'm sorry, Mr. Perkins. I said Hawkins, it's Perkins. I'm like, oh, let me talk. Apologize. But anyway, one of the biggest things that I've learned is what we put into our businesses is going to determine what we get out of it. A lot of times you see Facebook and you see social media and you see all the success, but you don't see the late nights and you don't see the, you know, the struggle that goes along with it. Be prepared to struggle, to take risks, for your confidence to grow, and sometimes to fail. A lot of times to fail. It's a trial and error thing, and even when we get together and we talk about it, we're still learning. So I would say my advice would be always be in a position to grow and to learn from others, and don't ever think you know everything, because there's so much more all the time. But be prepared to take risks and, you know, work hard so that you can get the reward of, you know, seeing your baby grow into something really special.
Okay, and also real quick, we are going to disseminate the contact information, but did you want to just kind of throw out some of your contact information, social media channels real quick, how people can contact you?
Oh, absolutely. I will drop my email, which is candace.p.crafts@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm currently transitioning on Facebook to getting to blogging and doing some do-it-yourself videos. So I'll be developing some other things. But what I do have is a link tree, which gives you all of the platforms, which is linktr.ee, and that's /Starshine's art. So we'll get that out to you. And let me know if you need anything. I'm here. You know it.
Thank you, Candace.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Mr. Perkins, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned from having your business? And then also whatever contact information you want to throw out verbally real quick.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So I've been doing this almost 5 years full time, like head down, just building, learning, failing. So every day I learn something. I don't know if one thing is just so big that like it's just gonna eclipse everything else. I will say, as of late, throughout the pandemic, something I've learned is really just the pure correlation between personal, your personal life and then your business life. So to the extent of how you do one thing is how you do everything. If that is an idea that you've ever heard, your health, working out, for like myself, like me getting just good sleep at night really translates into business results, which is like very counterintuitive. It seems more like, oh, I need to be better at Facebook ads, or, oh, I need to be better at influencers, or, oh, I need to be on another panel. But kind of, doing less, meditating consistently and having a schedule and knowing exactly what I'm supposed to do, making lists. Like for me, the night before, I already know what I'm going to do. I knew this was on the calendar for today. That type of thing is like, it's been a huge learning for me. And just like, it continues to just get better. And then I would just say, I know we didn't get to all the questions. I'm trying something different myself. So if there are any questions that you all want to send, like it should give you a list of the chat, send me a copy of the questions. I'll provide my answer to the questions, and I'm going to post them on our TikTok account. So we have TikTok is just Hamilton Perkins. It'll ultimately it'll end up on LinkedIn, but it'll be quicker, like bite-sized chunks on TikTok. If you look over my shoulder, you can see some of the different post-its there. I get a bunch of questions, so I'm going to try to answer them. I've got hundreds, probably thousands of questions. I'm going to just go through all of them. So hopefully that helps, and wishing everyone success with your business. My contact, you can reach me as Hamilton@hamiltonperkins.com. Going back to learnings, I'm very like methodical on email and timing of like actually responding. So it may be some time. It may be best to connect with us, either on a forum like this or just like going forward, we can find another way to connect. But I'd love to learn more about your business. Follow us on TikTok.
All right, awesome. And right now I'm populating everybody's contact information. I'm going to post it in the chat box. All right, so next, Mrs. Jones, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned, and also your contact info?
The biggest lesson that I'll say I've learned is and that I would give is to not be afraid to outsource. When you get to the point where you're, as a business owner, when you're getting burnt out and you feel like that, you just can't take it. Don't be afraid to outsource help. Whether you need a VA, whether you need to hire a few employees to be able to do what it is that you need to do for you as a CEO, as the owner, to continue fully operating your gift. Don't be afraid to do that. Another thing that I would give is to continue learning and perfecting your craft. As business owners, whether we are making crafts, making t-shirts, whether we're providing a service, always continue, being able to learn more knowledge into the industry that you're in. If you're in finance, of course, you may need to take a few finance classes. If you're in t-shirts, maybe you need to take a sales marketing or, course, things like that. So those things is what will set us apart from other people. The business owner that you are now, you shouldn't be that same business owner a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Continue growing. And so those are the tips. I am on Facebook as Khadidra Jones and Company LLC, Instagram CJ and Company LLC. My distinctive designs is distinctive designs with a Z instead of an S, as well as on Instagram. TaylorMade Coaching LLC is on Facebook as well as Instagram. And Tiffany, of course, she put those in along with the email addresses and websites. Thanks.
I'm trying.
You're moving fast.
There you go. All right. Dr. Rhonda, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned? And then how can people contact you?
Sure. So I'm going to quickly share with you my biggest business failure, right? So I, back in 2010, I decided to start a stiletto business because I love shoes. So I decided, okay, all of my friends are like, you should start a business, you should sell shoes. And I was like, okay, I'll sell shoes. And I spent thousands of dollars on shoes, and nobody told me that I needed to figure out who I was going to sell all these shoes to before I started my business. I thought it was going to be my friends who were all egging me on to start this business, and it turns out it wasn't them. And then I didn't know who to turn to. And I didn't know the business. I just liked shoes, and I liked playing dress up online with my friends. But I didn't know that to sell one shoe, you've got to buy 14. And so I had shoes in my garage, up the walls, in my bedroom, everywhere. I couldn't get rid of them. It took me a year to get rid of that inventory after I closed that business. And so the lesson that I have for pretty much everybody here is, number one, do your research. Know what it takes to get into that market. Know what it takes to stay in the market. Just because you have the money and the time doesn't always equal success. You need to know what it takes, who the players are, who the competition is. Sadly, while I was working that business, Just Fab and another online shoe company came into being, and they were selling the same shoes I was selling for $25, and I was selling my shoes at $40 to $60. They killed my business, and I had no idea that that was on the horizon, and I wasn't able to pivot when that happened. So do your research. Secondly, understand who your customer is. I learned so much about customer discovery and customer validation through that experience. If you want to start a business, it's great to start that business. It's a great idea, flesh it out, but always know who your customer is. It's not your friends. It's not the folks you know on Facebook. It's not your family. And quite often we get very upset because they didn't support. Y'all don't support. You didn't support. You don't. But that can't support. That can't sustain your business. Your business can only be sustained by understanding who your market is, by knowing how to reach that market, and then marketing to those people. And so that is a huge, 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 huge lesson. I learned from that. I learned so much. I actually wrote a book about it called Side Hustle or Sustainable, where you can kind of do a litmus test to determine whether your business is a side hustle or a sustainable, scalable business. But the biggest tip from all of that is understand who your customer is. Do your research. As far as social media goes, you can find me on pretty much all the platforms at the Dr. Rhonda, THEDRRHONDA. My website is thedrrhonda.com. So it's pretty easy. Once you type it in once, you should be able to find me pretty much everywhere.
All right, awesome. Akosua, so what's one of the biggest business tips that you have to offer? And then also, how do people contact you?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. If you know me, I like to keep things simple and relevant. So I think one of the biggest lessons for me is knowing who your customer is, like Dr. Rhonda said. So I'll just leave it because she said it perfectly. If you know who your customer is, you know what they want, what their taste buds is, then you just create the solution, right? Not making it about me, but making it about who you're servicing, whether it's a product or a service. But another lesson really is just remembering that everything comes in season and phases. Amen. So I know you have all the big dreams and all the big goals, right? But obviously, we know that winter comes before what? Spring. There's just certain things that you can violate, like you said, just certain foundations and principles that you can violate. So focusing and knowing what season you're in and what you ought to be doing will do you so much good because you can't escape those. You will keep running in circles and coming back to that same season, even if other seasons comes. So just knowing what season you're in and what phase it is that you're in so you can keep making progress.
All right, thank you.
And you can
okay.
contact me. Tiffany put my email in there. The NSG is the first letter of my first name and then my last name. Acheamponmaa at NSU.edu.
All right, awesome, thank you. And last but not least, I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned from my business is to focus on what makes me happy. And that may sound backwards because as a business owner, you should be really focused on what your customer base, what your target audience is looking for, what drives them. But I noticed that I was almost chasing what other people wanted. And I started to get away from the reason why I started the business in the first place and what gave me joy in my business in the beginning. And so I've kind of gotten back to, that mindset of when I first began my business, and really I'm making the products that I love making. And ironically, now I have more people that are interested in my products now than when I was chasing people that I thought were my customers and doing, things that I thought those customers wanted. The other thing is, don't be afraid to ask for help. And Candace knows this because we're usually on the phone for a long time. Just because I don't like bothering other people. And, I feel like I have the tools to figure things out for myself, but that's not always the case. So don't be afraid to ask other people for help, and don't be afraid to figure things out with other people. So that was the biggest thing that I've learned. There are two biggest things that I've learned with my business. I put my contact information in the chat box. My name's Tiffany Richardson. My website's headzupboutique.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I also put my Norfolk State email in the chat box as well as the Innovation Center's website. So if anyone wants to send me additional questions for the part 2 of this event, feel free to. Again, my email address is in the chat box, T as in Tiffany, L Richardson at NSU.edu. And we will definitely be scheduling a part 2. Just be on the lookout for the date and the time. So I want to thank everybody, especially our panelists, for joining us today in today's event. It just flew by. I hope everyone has an awesome day, and I can't wait to do this again.